Welcome to Two Brothers and an Idea. They call me Ferdinand, the bringer of balance, leader of many disciplines, and one of your hosts of Two Brothers and an Idea. Hey, I got a new host, and this dude is dynamic, Mr. Smart. What's
Peace,
going on,
peace,
brother? How
peace. No complaints, man. Enjoying the night, enjoying the weather. All good, man. How you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, man. Had a great weekend. Children doing their thing at AAU Nationals. Had some speaking engagements. Was able to work on a couple of projects. So yeah, very blessed. Very thankful. Yeah, so today is episode 31, right? Two Brothers and an Idea. We talking about lawful versus legal. Today we got we go back real far, don't we, Ace?
Man, look, what they say, like two peas in a pod, little
Right.
kids.
Like two peas in a pod. So in this conversation about lawful versus legal, we wanted to bring Ace in because Ace has a very unique perspective on lawful versus legal. See, many of us, when we talk about lawful versus legal, we might be thinking about the courtroom. We might be thinking about getting out of jail. We might be thinking about a lawsuit, number of different things. And make no mistake about it, all of those kind of fit within lawful versus legal. But then there's also the lawful versus legal part when it comes down to who you are, right? So many of us get mail, and some of our mail is in all capital letters. Some of our mail isn't, right? Have you seen this type of behavior and this type of mail, Nalan?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, to be honest, I have. I've seen different font, different ways of course, my name being presented on a document. Sometimes I may not have the full quote unquote name that I've been given, or it
You
might be
understand
short.
the difference between the two?
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I honestly do, but I would love to honestly learn and be educated on that, please.
Well, Ace, if you don't mind breaking that down for the audience, we're about to give you the floor.
Yeah, man, thanks, yo. So, I'm not the expert on any of this, right? I'm still learning myself, but and trust me, uh, when I say there's a reason why I'm wearing shades on the inside, right? But from my study so far, lawful is kind of like what we express from God, right? We there's a lot of people that believe that there's a higher power than them. Whether you call that higher power is up to you, right? But if you do believe that there's a higher power, then you believe that you kind of got your laws from God. Then there comes legal, right? Legal is how we like to say um, what man placed to give order to other men, right? So um, I think that is the easiest and quickest definition that I could give, so that kind of people could kind of contextualize where this conversation is going to go.
Absolutely. And I thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And just before we move forward, I brought about the conversation about the mail. So just for everybody out there, when I talk about mail being in your postal mail being in all capital letters, that's being sent to the fictitious entity that may be called Becky Washanowski or uh, Ferdinand Thomas Bay, right? This is the fictitious entity. However, what's coming in the lowercase letters, that's going to the proper person, the natural man or the natural woman. Okay. So I just want to make sure we make that distinction so we can start to understand the difference between lawful and legal. Because see, when we say lawful and legal, I want everybody out there to really get this, really understand. We're talking about you. We're not just talking about the courtroom. We're talking about you. There is a lawful you. There is a legal you.
But before we even jump into that definition of it, I think that we need to bring things back, because I feel like there's a lot of people who will understand things when you kind of conceptualize it for them, right? So saying that lawful, right? Lawful, like I said, was from God. So anything outside of that, you can choose whether or not you want to conceptually obey, right? So again, we talked about taxes today. We've talked about a lot of stuff today in this concept, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but I just wanted to help people understand where we were going with the conversation.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. You know, Nalan, help me help me with your journey in this space of lawful versus legal. You know, where are some areas that you've been successful in this space for whatever your goals may have been, and what are some areas in this space where you may have stumbled because because obviously we weren't taught this in school.
No, thank you. To be fair, it's something that was more of an observation for me as far as when you actually go through the, I guess you could say, life balance or the life journey of being a citizen, right? So you have a social security number, you got to file for taxes, you got to all these different, excuse me, you don't have to, but for me, that was my journey. And definitely in the midst of all the different things that I've been a part of, or as far as documentation, I realized that, there's for me, so just to clarify, my full name is Nalan Smart Jr. Ironically, Nalan Smart is what you see up here, but that's what I usually go by. But on documentation, it can be Junior. Sometimes it's Smart. Sometimes it's not even spelled correctly. And there are times where I just, again, the awareness, I just see the differences and I don't really know, excuse me, what exactly my role, I guess you could say, or excuse me, not role, but stance I should go forward with as far as what I can change. But I've definitely become aware of the differences in just my own personal experience, like when you brought up lawful and legal. And again, with documentation, that's something I definitely, again, just was aware of as far as the next step of what to do. Definitely trying to figure out that going forward, as well as, be here and learn with you guys. So that's why we definitely have Ace on the line and definitely spread awareness. So I'm here to learn. And but that's, like I said, more so it's been awareness. So thank you.
I want to say for this, again, I'm not a legal expert yet. I'm working myself there, but you brought up a point before that I had lost my train of thought on. The all caps name, the government, if you kind of think of it as the government or legal fictions cannot interact with anything other than legal fictions. So they had to make a way for them to quote unquote address you, right? So if you look through the UCC gives you a lot of great information about what's the definition of a person, right? When you start to go down these rabbit holes, the definition of a person is actually what we consider a human, man, woman, child. But they also include trusted and corporations. How can a person also be a trust or a corporation, right? So when you start to go down to those rabbit holes and have those epiphanies that, hey, something happened when I was born that probably wasn't really communicated to our parents as to, what was going to happen with the birth certificate and getting a social security card and getting a social security number. And what that truly, truly, truly meant. It truly meant that you're giving the government a way to quote unquote identify you. But again, please remember there's duality in everything that we do, right? As above, so below. So if they can't talk to you, the human, the person, the flesh, then they have to talk to something that represents you. And that's where they get that legal fiction all caps name.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when I think about lawful versus legal, you brought up a really great point, Ace, where you were talking about how law is connected to God, right? So when we talk about law, we're talking about law of the land. We're talking about maritime law. Would you agree?
Correct.
We're talking about universal law as well. But universal law might be accepted as much as, let's say, the maritime and the law of land. Would you?
The maritime isn't really accepted when you really think about it, man. So again, I'm still going down all of these rabbit holes to conceptualize it to a point where I can teach it, right? But going down one of these rabbit holes, you'll find out that in the UCC, it defines live birth. Like that live birth, they consider not just the baby that was being born, but everything that was left after, right? Again, we've already talked about how we don't know what signatures are, but there's conceptual understanding that when you're signing certain documentation, you could be giving up your rights. And that also includes the stuff that was left at the afterbirth, or that also includes giving the government the right to make this trust for you. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Appreciate that, because that's big right there, that we have trusts in our fictitious names that most of us don't know about, right? So how are those trusts being utilized? What is the value of those trusts, right? These are things that I think that we all together as brothers and sisters, we need to be finding these answers, and we need to be sharing information with each other, right? But kind of changing over, moving over to legalese. So Nalan, I got to get you up in this, man. And I got to get you up in this fight, man. All right. So when we talk about legalese, I would imagine you done got some tickets before, speeding or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that process within that legalese process for you.
Okay. I mean, oh wow, he put me on the spotlight. Tell everybody what you've been through with your ticket situation. But no, pretty much in a nutshell, when you go through the process of getting any type of enforcement, and they call it law enforcement, right? You get paperwork that is telling you have to appear at a certain court, or usually it's quote unquote a court setting, or it's a prepayable offense, right? But it's all based on your identification, quote unquote. You provided some type of ID, which is usually your license, some type of state ID, some type of issue ID that shows them your face, as well as on the actual card or the document, your name. Usually it's a social security number or a state ID number, but the documentation is usually based on lawful, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I kind of stumbled here, but I guess you could say lawful. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Legal. There we go. I keep saying lawful, and that's what's been throwing me off. That's why it sounds wrong. Correct. Legal. Based on what they say is the legal statute of whatever it is, quote unquote, I'm in violation of that. So they would provide documentation saying that I'm in violation of whatever code. And then I would go through the process of either paying that ticket or going to court to dispute that situation.
Sure. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I wanted you to share that for our audience so that they could kind of see, both sides of law and legal, right? So Ace, one of the things that I want us to touch on real quick, because we were talking about this on the phone before we got on the live, that when a person gets a ticket, their fictitious entity may have violated some type of an ordinance, but their proper person didn't. Then in addition to that, there's other things that the proper person just doesn't have to be a part of. That they're exempt from these things, because I'll give an example for everybody. We've been talking about tickets. Get you driving too fast, speeding tickets, right? Well, Ace and I was just talking about how you could be driving down the road, don't really notice you're going too fast, and the camera shoots a picture of you, right? Well, legally, you're supposed to be able to face your accuser, right? Well, they'd have to take the camera down and bring it into the courtroom and get it to talk somehow.
Right. So that's legal too, right? So but lawful, I think what you were trying to go with there is lawfully you're supposed to be able to confront your accuser, right? And you can't do that. And what you're trying to say is you can't do that through it with a camera. So this can only be legal. So when you get into legal versus lawful, well, what is legal? Again, that brings us back to kind of what is legal. Legal literally is fiction versus fiction, and what they're trying to do is get some type of currency. I think this is the first time we bought these words, but everybody thinks of currency as money. But when we got to start digging into these words, and we have to start understanding these things on a legal definition, not just what we think is the definition, right? Because what we think are definitions of words has been programmed into us, and they're not necessarily correct, right? So again, money is lawful, right? And sometimes you'll hear people talk about lawful money. We no longer have lawful money because it's not on the gold standard. Everything that we have is fiat, and fiat, if you understand that word, it means not real, fake, right? Which that is true. That is true. We were taken off the gold standard. We do have fiat currency, but what that means for us is that they had to give us what they call a remedy, right? And when you understand that there's two sides of the law, right? There's your physical person, that person did harm to someone else. That is a whole different statute and a whole different law book than you ran a speeding light. You ran, you know what I'm saying? You ran a red light, or you were speeding down the road. Those are two totally different things in two totally different courts, where they're supposed to be. It goes back to that duality again, right? So the biggest thing that I can tell you is that there are so many different things out there. If you don't want to go, walking down the UCCs and walking down the constitutions, those are definitely good places to start. The Constitution and the UCC definitely tell you the lay of the land. And that's important because I think that we've been, we haven't been given the lay of the land. We're playing basketball on, and they're playing, checkers and stuff. Like literally, they're playing chess. We're not even on the court. We're not even where they are, right? We're looking somewhere completely different. We need to focus and look where the attention has not been for forever, because they didn't want the attention there. Because once you figure it out, there's nothing that they can do, right? But this doesn't make you an evil person. It just makes you want to live more in tune with what God has already given you.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, really appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for that correction, because you're right. I did mean the lawful, even though I was talking about legalese. But
sometimes you got to really think which side of the house am I talking about. It's a lot. I will agree. It is a lot to digest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
And that, just real quick to interject for those that are tuning in, it's okay to be a little bit confused on what she's breaking down. As we're breaking down the difference between lawful and legal, just understand when we're breaking things down, we're dismantling as well. So just a disclaimer, we're all understanding, so we may just seek a little clarification on this. So just be open to that. Everyone tuning in, that myself as well as some of y'all tuning in are just trying to understand. So we're clarifying, and we're also trying to clarify what's going on. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna send it back to y'all. Just feel like
I appreciate that, brother. And for everybody out there who's listening in, thank you very much for being here. Feel free to drop your comments in the comment area. We on Two Brothaz An Idea, episode 31, lawful versus legal. They call me the guy with the books. I got Mr. Smart over here, and we got Ace on the line. Listen, what if, and this for you, Nalan, What if you were always operating in your proper person? What if so many things that have happened in the past of your life, they couldn't have happened because there was no fictitious entity for it to happen to, right? How do you think that your life would have changed?
Good question. I would say it would definitely. I would say it would change more so, and I would definitely say in the way I'm living. Naturally, I have a house, I have a car, I have definitely tangible things, but in a sense of really being more with nature and the environment, and I feel that would be me personally. But I would love to ask you that same thing, as well, because I know you're someone that has definitely been walking life in a very strong spiritual sense, a very strong knowledge sense. And I feel like you definitely have been someone that is, when we have conversations, you always broken down the lawful versus legal aspect. Do you think that has, I guess, manifested that concept into your life since you definitely understand it and you follow it?
I think that if there was no fictitious entities and all this, and we were just operating in our proper person, I would be an emperor right now. So, Ace, you are walking a certain path that most of us don't even know that it's a path to walk. And I really appreciate it. I'm so thankful that I have you as a friend and you're walking that path. So I want to ask you the same question, but I'm asking you this question because you're already walking the path. So like how is your life changing as a result of you operating more often in your proper person?
Well, let me say this before let me say that I wouldn't change anything. I think that was the question that you asked before, was what would you would change had you known. Now, knowing what I know, or I'm starting to understand, once you really dive into this, you could use this stuff for your benefit. It's not going to be easy, but you can use all of this information for your benefit. So I wouldn't change anything about where we are right now in the system. But yes, I am now trying to operate more in my what we call proper person, and use the entity that they gave us as it's supposed to be used, as a business, right? So, maybe not talking about credit, personal credit, and different things like that, but when you start to try to turn your mind into, okay, they're not talking to me with this speeding ticket, they're talking to that corporation that they gave you social security number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. If you Here's a question for you: how come the EIN that you get for a business, anybody who's going to go apply for a business, LLC, S corp, whatever, how come it's the same amount of numbers as a social security? It's just the account numbers is the difference. Number, tag, 6 numbers, and your SSN is number, tag, number, tag, 4 numbers. But you add it all up, it's still 9 numbers. Why is that? And then when you start to think about things in that way, that they just give you they literally just gave you a business, and once you start to operate in that business, your life will change. You won't be worried about the rich paying more money in taxes. Point blank, period.
I appreciate that. That's
Sorry for that. Real quick, I like everything your bullet points that you just mentioned. And if you don't mind sharing to like the public and us here, like what are some, like how does that transformation look like? Like when I say transformation, for someone that may be trying to be on this journey right now, listening, trying to figure out how they can understand what we're referencing. What are some, I know you kept referencing the UCC, like what are some maybe literature or some things that you looked at You know, Ace, if you can share that has helped you or can help other people also kind of get a good grasp on this concept, you think?
Man, that's a great question. I think that personally, for yourself, before you even dive into this, what it looks like is anger is going to look like, after anger, I think you get a sense of relief. And I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. Going down these, I feel like these types of roads are very spiritual in your enlightenment, right? Because there's a lot of people that say you aren't a body, right? You are a spirit having a human physical experience. So again, that goes back to the duality of everything in our whole entire world. So once you realize that, hey, everything that we were programmed to understand this, and the way we were programmed was absolutely not correct, you'll be able to break down some of those preconceived notions that you have, the things that your parents taught you or your environment taught you, and then you'll be able to rebuild yourself back up. As far as things to help you get there, number one is absolutely the UCC. Number two is absolutely the Constitution. Number three is follow people who have already started to walk this path, even if they aren't all the way where they need to be, right? You know, I follow a couple of different people on this path. A gentleman on YouTube by the name of Yusuf L. A gentleman by the name of Brandon Joe Williams. He's on YouTube and on Instagram. I actually take classes through a company called UR urlaw.org. And they also have a YouTube. So there's a bunch of different things out there, you know, to kind of start to pick up the pieces. Now, I will tell you like this: do not take anybody's word for absolute law. If somebody is telling you something, go and find out where they found that information, look it up, and try to prove it wrong. Right? Don't try to prove it right. Try to prove it wrong. And if you can't prove it wrong, then you got to say, okay, maybe they're onto something. But yeah, those definitely a bunch of different books. I have a couple books here I was looking for. There's one book. It's something like Guide to How to Operate Your Trust. As soon as I find it, you know, I'll put it back up here. But that's a really good one because it gives you what they call maxims of law, you know, which basically, when you come down to it, is kind of like different little Bible verses and Bible scriptures. Now, I was raised as a Catholic, right? But I don't practice Christianity or Catholicism. I really dive into a bunch of different spiritualities and even religions to understand them. But it was just kind of wild to see, like, okay, they even understand that there is a difference between lawful and legal.
Yep. Go ahead, brother. Oh, no, it's me. I heard the echo. I thought that was Nalan, but he's got his microphone off. Yeah. So anyway, listen, y'all. Two Brothers and an Idea, episode 31. Lawful versus legal. I'm the guy with the books. We got Mr. Smart over here. We got Ace in the building. We talking about some really important stuff, y'all. Please understand that for really pretty much your whole life, your grandparents' whole life, your mother and father whole life, there's been people that's been trading you on the stock market. And there's been people racking up lots of money in debt for nations. Didn't even really understand that debt, part of that debt might have been you. Well, what happened? So I'm gonna give this real quick. Y'all do what y'all want with it, okay? 1860s. We have a big change in the United States. Okay. We have the quote unquote end of slavery. Well, what ends slavery? Most people know it to be the Emancipation Proclamation. The word emancipate, though, is something that we need to think about because in the modern dictionaries, emancipate means to free. But in the older dictionaries, emancipate means to free as well as it means to transfer, right? So what may have been transferred? The rights of these fictitious entities from the state level to the federal level. And this time we're not just going to get us some melanated people. We need some Caucasians too, all of them, right? So when we think about lawful versus legal, we got to start looking at all of this. We got to look at the meritorious manumission uh, of law of 1705 or 1704, whatever year that was. We got to look at all these different things to see how they play on taking us down a path where we operate as an avatar, where we operate as a cartoon character, as we operate as Mario or Luigi in a video game. Because at the end of the day, what you're watching on a daily basis in this world, in this life, in all these civilized societies all around the world, you are watching a whole bunch of people play Monopoly, right? But the Monopoly is being played on a table. The table is of real individuals. It's being played on the back of real individuals. And all that has to happen for the game to be over is to stand up.
Correct.
I feel that. I agree.
Correct.
Okay.
The game, man. Kendrick tried to tell you the game is over. Kendrick tried to tell you the game is over, man. It's time to learn this information, y'all. You know, and what Ferdinand was alluding to was, you know, everybody talks about, oh, the 14th Amendment gave the slaves their right to, you know, citizenship. But did it really? Like, it really kind of created what we would consider the modern day slave, right? Because if you consider yourself a U.S. citizen instead of what Ferdinand was alluding to, the state national, you kind of step into all of these unknown jurisdictions that you didn't even know that you signed up for. That right there is the real reason how they're taxing everybody, because they're taxing the fiction. They're not taxing you, the person. They can't tax you, the person. The person who makes wages, they can't tax that. That's slavery. So how did they get around that? They made somebody who they could treat as a slave, but that's not you. That's not your body.
This is what democracy is.
Right. So when you understand that, man, life gets a lot easier. Trust me, when you understand that and you can stand on what they call your square, life gets a whole lot easier.
Sound like you got something for us, Naylor.
No, I was you were gonna say something actually. I was wanting to hear that part actually.
You know, when I think about law, I'm honestly normally thinking about universal law, right? And then there's a certain amount of the law of the land that I'm paying attention to as well. But I'm usually paying attention to the law of suggestion, the law of sacrifice, the law of reciprocity, the law of non-compulsion, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, when I think about legalese, I'm constantly thinking about paperwork. You know, I'm thinking about terms and conditions. I'm thinking about contracts. You know, I'm thinking about a whole bunch of administrative paperwork that is so confusing that you just feel comfortable signing your whole life away. As soon as the box comes up on the screen and it says terms and conditions, you see that joker is like 35 pages as you scroll as fast as you can, because you know that the little checkbox won't open up unless you scroll to prove that you read this, right? Well, most of us, we scroll as fast as we can, and then we sign ourselves into things not really understanding what we've signed into, because we've signed the fictitious entity in this. So this is the legal side. This is the legal lease, you know, and One of the things that I definitely plan on diving a little deeper in my own studies is how to avoid prison. Because when we talk about lawful versus legal, if you're operating in your proper person, which would be lawful, I would imagine that there's only certain things that you could get locked up for. You know, in this legalese nonsense, you brothers will be getting locked up all the time for not paying child support. I would imagine that could happen in the lawful space.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're not having that in the lawful space. That is only in the legal space. You know what I'm saying? But you had said something earlier that I wanted to piggyback off of, man, and it kind of lost my train of thought. Right back with your thought about before the paying child support. You said something about your definitions of the different laws that you were in. You know, the two laws that people really need to understand here on this earth is the law of the land and the law of the water. They got you in the law of the water right now. That's that Admiral Maritime. Those contracts. If you're going to play in that land, you have to understand their contracts. You have to understand what they can and cannot do. They can't lie to you. So all of your answers are somewhere, whether it be in the UCC or whatever other codes, your state codes. Your answers are there. Your remedies are there. You use them.
Question. For those, just correlating this discussion to what I also see nowadays, you see people getting pulled over or arrested, and some people have probably seen this on YouTube or whatever, and then people will tell the officer, like, I'm a sovereign person, or I'm not I believe what the exact terminology is, but they would say something along the lines of sovereign. Is that something related to this concept as well, with the lawful versus legal? Because I feel like it is.
No, man, you don't want to get labeled a sovereign citizen. That is very bad. So now, the craziest thing is, some people, if you understand the definition of sovereign and you understand the definition of citizen, it's really like a double negative. You can't be a sovereign citizen, because if you're a state national, quote unquote, citizen, then, well, really you can't even be a citizen, because that's that legal fiction, right? When you go down the definitions. But what those people are trying to do, they're trying to bring equity to the situation, because technically, if you didn't hurt anybody, like you got into an accident and somebody back there is killed, but you drove off, now you've hurt somebody. Now you're in trouble. That you need to pay for that, right? But if you're just passing slow cars in the left lane going 85 and the speed limit is 55, who did you really hurt, right? And maybe that's a bad analogy, because you could hurt somebody going that fast, but if that's all they got you for, then what really is the problem, right? Because in the lawful side, you have to have an injured party, what they call an injured party, right? In the legal side, they don't have to have an injured party, or better yet, they're saying that because everything is legal fiction, the state is the legal person who was injured, and that's just not true. So, they're trying to get the officer to understand that, but sometimes it's just easier to, not sign anything, not answer any questions, always ask the officer questions, answer a question with a question. And you could kind of navigate yourself through that, but I wouldn't suggest that for anybody who's not already starting to go down these. Like, I'm not even jumping that yet, right? I still carry a driver's license at the moment. I still carry a U.S. passport at the moment, but I am working on getting all of those things changed over to the state national stuff.
Sure. When I think about this topic as well, it takes me down the path of I might have slipped my thoughts on what I was thinking about. So yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to what I was thinking about. But again, for all y'all who are out there listening, it's Two Brothers and an Idea. We're in episode 31, lawful versus legal. We going in. Guy with the books. We got Mr. Smart on the line. We got Ace on the line. Listen, Nalan, take over, brother.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ace, because you know, I'm glad you just literally just really responded to what I was mentioning further. Because again, you know, people are trying to kind of understand what their stance, not even their stance, but where this concept even comes from. And to your point, you brought up something earlier about well, Ferdinand brought up something about the like slavery, for instance, and then it being free at a certain point in time. But before all of that, we were people, we were here. So there has to be a way of governing yourself, right? And you can't, like you said, you guys said law of the land, law of the water. To me, that resonates on a lot of different levels. But is there a way that, I know I'm not trying to be all the way specific and just probe you guys, but can you share maybe some tidbits of what you guys may know exactly from law of the land and law of the water for those that are tuning in? And I'm gonna be literally looking up. Oh, here we go. Everybody tune in. Stay tuned. We are there.
Well, I'd like to I didn't know this until not that long ago, but most states have more than one constitution, right? Somewhere around that freeing of the slaves time, the world or our nation started to move into that legal fiction, right? They became a corporation. And where you have that, where you see the difference in that is the difference between the United States of America and the United States, right? The United States is the corporation. The United States of America is talking about the land mass that you and I and Ferdinand are in different sections of, right? So when you pair those two things and you start to look at even your state, because I'm in the state of Maryland, I used to be in the state of Virginia. If I'm not mistaken, the state of Virginia has something like 6 different constitutions. But if you look at the ones before, like say 1875, 1877, you'll see the real law of the land vice when you come into the law of the water and you start to get that legalese, the lawful, the legal stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Well, y'all, I think we didn't hit capacity. This is one of those topics we all growing in. It's a lot, you know. I think we definitely got to have Ace back up here. Hopefully, on our next one, we might be able to get an Esquire up here as well.
Yeah.
Really dig in on this because everybody out there, please understand the importance of these 2 words, lawful and legal. These are very, very important words that they're not pushing heavily in school and on purpose. As you can see, if you want to control a group of people, you got to keep them confused. So while they're thinking that they're a natural person with a spirit, mind, and body, they're being told by everybody else that they're a piece of paper, right? So we got to start to get an understanding of the differences in this space. We also need to get this is what I was going to talk about. We need to get an understanding of our language that we use, right? So there's a video that that Ace sent me some months back called "The Law of the Moor," right? So I watched the video and the presenter gave some great information on how to present ourselves in a courtroom so that we're presenting ourselves as the proper person, right? So when we go to court, you know, we get the ticket in the mail or whatever, we go into court. Well, we're not making an appearance. We're sending in a letter to make a special appearance, right? When we walk in there, the first 2 words are supposed to come out of our mouth, according to this presenter, is "I affirm," right? And these different ways of speaking helps the people who are the gatekeepers of ordinances. These individuals now have to operate with you in your proper person versus the next person who they might be able to operate within their legalese identity.
Yeah. Is there a way, just piggybacking off of that, can we actually explore that with a part 2, Ace? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I know you've been
No.
definitely
It's absolutely,
connected
yeah.
with. Yeah, I would love for us to just go ahead and definitely another episode, do a part 2 of this, explore that verbiage. I think that would definitely help those that are tuning in really contextualize what we're discussing. Yeah, so yeah, Ace, hopefully you're down for the part 2 on that, right?
I am definitely down. I think before we get into that, because that type of conversation, you have to have been in the game and understanding things a little bit more than what we just covered. We didn't even barely chop the surface of this conversation, right? So, and I say that because when people really start to understand and they're gonna try to start doing some of this stuff, you have to be so okay within yourself to understand that no man or woman should stand above you. It should be you directly to God. And when you understand and you can govern yourself in that, you're not going to want to do harm to somebody else. You're not going to, all you want to do is protect your family and, go on about your day and go on about your way and live as God intended us to live. But until you know that, you can't. It's hard to have those conversations because you're going to start getting angry. You're going to start being, and those are people that they like to call the sovereign citizens. And it really is just that they're passionate, right? They're overexcited because they've just learned this information and they want to get these people up off of them because for whatever is going on, right? Maybe it is a traffic ticket, but that last $200. They got to either pay the traffic ticket to keep their license to keep going to work, or they got to keep the lights on, right? So I understand where people are coming from in their anger and wanting to get these people up off of them, but you got it's steps, it's levels to it, right? And I would love to take everybody through every level, or at least we could start getting people down those rabbit holes, right? Hey, go look at this rabbit hole. Go look at that rabbit hole. Here are a couple people that I've listened to, or these are books that I've looked at. These are things that I've done. Before we even get into those conversations.
I appreciate you saying that, Ace, because I want to follow up with this. I haven't started walking this path yet, right? However, I walked another type of path that could be looked at as almost like a parallel road, where I walked the path of purity to, kind of get myself back right. Well, in that space, all things are revealed in that space. So yeah, there was a little while where I was pretty daggone angry because I had realized that I had been taught lies. Well, I'm also looking at how my mama had been taught lies and my daddy had been taught lies. And they was thinking that what they was teaching me was good because of whatever reason. And then you wake up one day because you're eating different food, because you're living differently. And now you got to face the reality of what has happened. Anyone out there who chooses to go down this path that Ace is walking right now, you got to understand that what she just said is facts. You got to face you, because during this journey, you got to face the reality that you allowed yourself to be lied to. And in that space, you got to be able to handle yourself well to go ahead, and now you at this level, you got to go ahead to the next one, because you ain't done yet. You still got more to do. This was just one part right here where you had to get over yourself. You had to get over your emotions, right? And there's so many journeys in this space of freeing yourself, freeing your physical body, where you're going to face you. You're going to have to face the reality that, like, I think I'm a pretty daggone smart dude. And I had to live in the reality that I was letting boneheads teach me how to eat. I was letting boneheads teach me how to do things, and I was following their directions. These same boneheads was getting all kinds of different problems with their life later on but this is somebody who taught me how to do something. They taught me how to do what they're doing. And this way that they're doing it is causing a major problem for them later on in life. Well, you got to be able to accept the reality that you said yes to all of these things. Now, maybe not in childhood. Obviously, wherever your parents send you to school, that's where you go to school. However, you still got to accept the responsibility that you accepted the teachings. Because no matter whether you're in the school or not, every single child has to accept the teachings, right? And it's hard to say, it's hard for a parent to hear that child was responsible, but that's the reality. The child was responsible, whether they said yes to the message or they said no to the message. The only person who can choose what goes in here is that person, even if they're a child, So one of the best things that I think we all could do is learn from people like Ace. You got an ace in your city. You got an ace in your state. You probably went to high school with a couple of aces. You better get with them. Learn from the aces of the world and go ahead and start walking this path to free yourself. It's going to be difficult, but it's going to be worth it.
I would say that, doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, right? So if we've, done the things that people told us to do, right? Because they told us to do what? Go to school, get a good job, and keep your head down, stay out of trouble, and you'll live a good life. But I think that we are all realizing that the more and more and more amount of money that you make, it doesn't really matter if you don't understand a few things about how those monies work, and how to free yourself from the mundane, everyday, Rudy Poo levels of life, right? I feel like this is just one step of the stepping stone to kind of get your whole mind, body, and soul, on one page into ascend to the next level, whatever that level is, whether it's spiritual level, whether it's physical, been in the gym, you know what I mean? Or whether it's with this legal stuff, right? Now they can't touch you anymore. Because that starts to walk into litigation, right? That's a whole different fight in itself. But once you understand it and once you get it down and once you know that those lawyers over there don't want a piece of you, once you really know what you're doing, there's nothing holding you back.
Facts. Ace, I really want to thank you and thank Nalan for coming through for today's episode, Two Brothaz An Idea, episode 31, Lawful versus Legal. We're about to go ahead and shut it down, but before we do, let's give Ace a couple of minutes to give some final thoughts.
Man, just thank you guys. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I apologize for the beginning if things sound a little raspy and rough. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I said, I am new to these spaces and getting over a little bit of nervousness and different things like that to stay on topic was a part of my learning experience today. I thank you for allowing me to learn and for allowing me to get a couple things off my chest. But definitely next time we have this conversation, I want it to be a little bit more structured so where we could actually say, hey, let's get this topic and we could dive into that so that we're not kind of just flying all over the place. I think we gave some good concepts out today. People could kind of, oh, I ain't never heard that before, because one of my teachers always told me that it's going to take somebody multiple times before they really truly starts to sink in, like, okay, maybe this is something I should look at. So this is the first time you might have heard a couple of new terms or ideas, or maybe you've been hearing these terms and ideas, and maybe that's your signal that should be telling you, okay, maybe I need to go find some more information on this stuff. I hope that everybody had a great time, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Nalan,
yes,
great information that we got from Ace today. I'm very thankful. And, I have private conversations with Ace, so I get some privileged information. but nah, I'm thankful that Ace was willing to come on stage and give a message to the world. Because we need more regular people in life. I don't think the Ace is regular, but Ace might not have millions of dollars in a bank account, and then you come on the platform and you help the world understand. Listen, we've been lied to, we've been run amok, led astray. It's time for us to wake up as a people, and we need to stand. Instead of us having a whole bunch of really strong fingers, we need to turn it into a fist, and we need to put it to work. We need to pound it into something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wealth is a mindset. Wealth is a mindset. So as we're on this journey, as I'm on this journey with this podcast and touching on different things that I'm not familiar with or I am familiar with, it's great to just share and also learn at the same time. So, I feel like that's the stepping stone of community right now, right? Us learning, sharing, and literally just getting better. You know what I mean? As a community. So yeah, man, appreciate it for sure.
Appreciate you, my brother. And so we're gonna go ahead and shut it down, but I want to give you, Mr. Smart, a chance to give your final remarks.
Oh man, appreciate it, man. Final remarks, man. Just Ace was a great guest, man. We definitely appreciate all the love. Definitely want to say to everyone tuning in, stay tuned. Please make sure you are following everybody that you see at the top scrolling above us. Support the page, support the movement. You definitely see the Cash App up there for Ferdinand, myself, but definitely just tune in and give us some feedback if you can. I would definitely love to hear from y'all, share some ideas, some topics. And stay tuned, man. We're here for more and we're here to build. So we love it. And back to Ferdinand. Appreciate you.
My brother. So one of the things that I really love is coming up here on these platforms and having these dynamic conversations. On Two Brothaz and An Idea, we talk about many different things. Lawful versus legal is what we're talking about today. Sometimes we're talking about perspective on regress trauma. Other times we might be talking about fatherhood. Sometimes we might be talking about what's going on in the Oval Office, right? So we have a lot of different great conversations about high vibrational topics. So thank you all for showing up, for tuning in, getting these messages, and also thank you to all of y'all who be commenting, engaging. Listen, this is a journey that we're taking together, hand in hand. All right. Listen, y'all be blessed and y'all expose your gift.